Why? The question why is unique. Of all God's creatures, only angels and human beings can ask this question. It's both a beautiful question and it's a dangerous one. It's a beautiful question because it reflects the power of our intellect, our curiosity, our ability to always go deeper. In fact, it's the result of a lot of scientific advances in technology. But it's also a dangerous question because it doesn't always have an answer. Why did she say that to me? Why did he hurt all those people? We have the ability to ask this question, why? And sometimes we will never know the answer. Or perhaps we will in eternity. Another question, why were we born? Why were we born when we were born? And I'm not saying the scientific part of it, but why the unique me? Why the unique you? Why was Jesus born when he was born? Scripture only says he was born in the fullness of time, which means at the perfect time he was born into the world. What's the perfect time? We don't know. We could argue, but we might say, but if he would have been born 100 years or 1,000 years earlier, more people would have come to know Jesus. Perhaps we will learn the answer in eternity. The more difficult question of why is usually tied to sickness and death. Monday will be the 72nd anniversary of D-Day, the beaches of Normandy, France, World War II. And a lot of people came back asking, why did he die? A comrade. And they're not asking like the answer like, what was a bullet? No. Why did he die and why did I survive? It's a dangerous question because we do not always have the answer. But because we can ask, we feel like we need to know. Why does one person live 100 years and another person lives 100 days? There's only one person that we really know why he died, and that's the one on the cross. Why? And our desire for an answer, sometimes we're going to settle on something. I might be wrong, but this is what I'm going with. And that can be a grave mistake. The first reading talks about the prophet Elisha, who visits a widow. This is the widow who years before, he had to flee Israel because the king and queen wanted to kill him. A famine was happening in the land at his command. And he flees into Gentile territory. He comes across a widow who is picking up sticks, and he says, could you please make something for me to eat? And she explains, this famine has ruined the land. I have enough to make one more meal for my son and I, and then we will starve to death. Well, the prophet asks anyway, please would you do me this favor? And amazingly, she offers this hospitality. And the prophet says, do not worry, the flour and the oil in your kitchen will not be emptied or run dry while I live with you. And he lived there for years, and the miracle continued during the time he was there. When the famine was over, and it was safe for him to return to Israel, he did. Today's first reading is his return visit to the widow. He enters the house. Shortly thereafter, her only son starts to have breathing problems. And then he dies. Well, when someone dies, so often we want to know why. Why did this happen? Is this my fault? Whose fault is this? And we hear the woman ask that difficult, dangerous question. She tries to blame first God and his prophet. Why have you done this to me, O man of God, Elijah? The widow needs to know why. But she also starts not only blaming God and his prophet, but she starts blaming herself. Listen to this. Why have you done this to me, O man of God? Have you come to me to call attention to my guilt and to kill my son? Well, what would her guilt have been? Well, she's a Gentile, and this Jewish prophet comes to visit, and she lives with this miracle in her kitchen for years. And maybe she never switched religions, never became Jewish. Maybe that's what she's saying, this is my fault, my guilt. We have to be careful with the beautiful ability to ask the dangerous question, why, and to settle on an answer that may be imperfect, an answer that we might never receive until eternity. No, I'm not saying don't ever ask God why. No, if I have something stirring within, some angst, some frustration, some anger, whatever it might be, bewilderment, confusion, ask. Bring everything to God. But be careful, because we might not have an answer. But I can assure you of this, and I believe you know this in your heart. Jesus Christ is life. Christ is not disease. Jesus Christ is life. Christ is not death. Christ is never part of the problem. He is part of the answer. And he notices, we saw this in the gospel, a funeral procession, a widow's only son. And unlike the daughter Jairus or his friend Lazarus, nobody asks him for a miracle. He sees the woman, has pity upon her, goes up to the casket, touches it, and says, young man, I tell you, arise. And it happens. Let us use the beautiful ability to ask why and to go deeper. But let us also realize there's a danger. I like to believe that in eternity, we will know why. But here, we walk by faith, not by sight.